Source: I have somehow gotten stronger when I improved my farm-related skill. Like and subscribe so you never miss our quality uploads. This unique story starts with a big explosion in the middle of a forest. 3 adventurers are shown facing off with a dragon. One of them questions why a dragon is in the forest as the dragon rears back and unleashes its dragon breath on them. They dodge the attack, but the flame engulfs a large part of the forest. The dragon turns and swipes its tail at them. The adventurers duck for cover as its tail slices through the trees. The dragon tries stomping them to the ground, but they escape and the dragon roars. Far away from the forest, a farmer hears noises from afar but mistakes them for thunder. He fears it might rain but doesn't mind it as he is busy admiring his plants, which are almost ready for harvest. When the farmer finishes the harvest, a display prompt informs him that he is now a top-notch farmer, and his soil turning skill is completed to level 10. The display in front of him lists down his attributes and skills. As he is admiring his stats, a golden-haired boy jumps on him. It turns out to be his friend Testa. We learn from Testa that the farmer is Al. Al shares his stats with Testa, showing how he has turned all his farming skills to level 10. Testa also reminds Al that he recently promoted his fishing skills to level 10 as well. Al says it was since he came to their place to help, but Testa insists that he himself is a fisherman, but Al's level is higher than his, which can't be right. A flashback happens of Testa and Al's fishing expedition where 3 monster fish attacks the boat. Al uses a spear and hurls it spinning in the air. It slices through them and comes back to Al's hand. Testa tells Al that he caught more fish than him. He says that if his stats are all level 10, then he really must be a top-notch farmer. Al shares with Testa that it is because of a blessing called Growth Boost. Testa says he envies him for having a blessing. Another prompt asks Al if he wants to integrate his farm skills. He decides to give it a shot. Those floating display cards in front of him become 5 and arrange themselves into a line with their displays facing him. Al browsers through them and reads each one. He wonders what was meant by to evolve into a nature lover and be favored by the world means. This appeared in one of the floating displays. Testa points out to Al his attack power, which has become 73,612 points, which he believes is an exaggeration. Al agrees with him but suddenly remembers that he has to deliver his harvest to the royal capital. Al rides his wagon pulled by a horse towards the capital. He comments that it seemed that it isn't going to rain, but then hears the dragon attacking the adventurers. The adventurers realize that they are no match for the dragon, and one of them shouts to retreat so they can rally their forces again. Al overhears this and plans to distract the dragon. Al flings the carrot he was eating towards the dragon and obliterates it and causing a huge explosion. The adventurers were all stunned. Al realizes that his attack power did increase, which turned him into an OP anime MC. But he went on his way with no care. He soon arrives at the capital and gets stopped at the gate by the guards and needs to check his pass. Suddenly, a bandit rushes toward them, along with a woman on his horse. As soldiers try to stop the bandit, Al steps in and grabs her. The bandit then gets off his horse and angrily demands the woman back. He takes out a knife and proceeds to attack him. Fortunately, Al's perception power allows him to see the attack coming. He dodges the attack easily and throws the attacker to the ground with one swift move. Guards rush in and subdue the bandit. The girl is grateful for the rescue and tries to talk to Al. He, however, rushes to deliver his harvest to the market before the girl can take his name. After the delivery, Al proceeds to go home, but is blocked at the gates by the guard. This surprises him as he had already shown them his pass. The girl steps in and introduces herself as the first princess of the royal capital of Magus, Phalis Magus. She told the guards to stop him so she could talk to him. Al is bewildered as to what a simple farmer like him had to offer to the princess. She orders him to talk to her casually and asks for his name. After Al introduces himself, the princess offers him a job to serve the royal family. Al wants to shout no at the offer, but is afraid he will get beheaded. He instead explains to the princess that he has a lot of responsibilities as a farmer and humbly declines her offer. Al apologizes and tries to leave, but the princess grabs him and demands to know why he refused her offer. Al explains he doesn't care about the pay, but just wants to work as a farmer all his life. To this, the princess tells him that she can give him 33,000 square meters of land if he comes to work for the royal palace. Al is surprised by the offer, so he inquires as to why the princess wants him to work for them. She explains that the man he defeated was not a regular bandit, but someone with 500 skill points. Al inquires what is the general average status. She explains that ordinary people usually have 50 points, adventurers have 130 points, and knights or captains can reach up to 600 points. Legendary heroes have 1,000 points. She requests him to show her his status. He is reluctant to show that he has 65,000 points. Fortunately, the 3 adventurers who were following the wagon trail arrived at the gates. The guards inquire how their mission went. They explained that the dragon was defeated, but not by them. It was someone who used a powerful weapon and blew up the dragon. They followed his wagon trail back to the capital. Then the princess realizes that the powerful person they were looking for was Al Wayne. She turns to him, but he used the interruption of the adventurers to hop on his wagon and leaves fast. The princess promises that she will 100% meet Al Wayne again. A soldier comes running in and requests the princess to return immediately. Inside the throne room, the king and the princess are being briefed by the soldiers about a pending attack by a large swarm of monsters. The different species of monsters seem to be controlled by something and are all headed toward the capital. According to some witnesses, it was like the second coming of Hellzone. The king objects to this, saying that the leader of Hellzone, Macbeth, the demon king, was supposed to be killed in battle by a hero. He further adds that they signed a pact with the demons to prevent another terrible like that. Officer Cecil offers an explanation. He says that not all demons may have accepted the treaty. He feels that this is revenge by demons who hate them for killing the Demon King. He accuses Romeo Van Ded, the commander of the First Army of the Demon King's combat unit, to be behind the attack. The king questions this, as he was the one to bring them to the peace negotiation. Officer Cecil theorizes that he planned it from the start and wanted to attack them when they had their guard down. He feels that the dragon attack and the attempted kidnapping of the princess were all distractions. The princess points out that these failed. He responds that they may have become desperate. He also points out that the demons may have noticed that the hero who defeated the Demon King has passed away. He encourages the king and the princess to escape, but the king refuses, and he does not want to abandon his people. He also wants to take responsibility for agreeing to the peace pact. Officer Cecil reminds him that he trusted the demons and showed benevolence and did not slaughter all of them after their defeat. It shows how scammy this guy sounds. His knights agree with this and convince him to flee and survive. They promise to protect the people, but he must survive, as the loss of a good king will be a greater tragedy. Back in Al Wayne's house, Testa is knocking on his door. He warns Al about the incoming horde of demons. He tells him to evacuate with them. Al realized that he has crops to harvest and rushes out. He finds his crops were safe but sees the monsters all headed toward the capital. He deduces that if the monsters raise the capital, there will be no one to buy his crops. He feels the need to do something to stop the pending invasion. As Al ponders on his plans, the convoy with the king and princess is making its way through the forest. The king asks Cecil if they are taking the right path. The princess notes that their path will lead to a dead end. It turns out that Officer Cecil had led them into a trap. He turns and uses magic to stab the king. As the knights questions Cecil's motives, he uses his magic to stab through the knights. He reveals himself to be Romeo Van Ded. The hordes of monsters gather behind him. As he defeats another knight, he reveals that he wants to impersonate the king to run the whole country. He feels that it would be nicer to have the demons occupy the capital of Magus without the people knowing than destroying the country. He tries using his magic again to kill the king and the princess, but the king uses his guarding shield to stop him. However, the injured king's shield starts to get taken out. The princess helps the king and increases the guardian shield. Romeo laughs at their attempt and uses another and more powerful attack that starts breaking down their shield once more. As he breaks down the shields, he asks the princess why the forest dragon attack and the kidnapping failed. This surprised him as his plans rarely fail, but the princess refuses to tell him anything. The last shield falls and Romeo calls on over darkness to finish off the king and the princess. Suddenly, Al jumps in with his secret art, underground excavation, which counters the spell. Al then casts a deep plowing spell that hits the monsters on the ground. Romeo asks who he is, and when Al responds that he is a farmer, Romeo cannot believe that a farmer can block his attacks. Al tries to explain what deep plowing means in farming, but Romeo cuts him off by rushing to his back and attacking with a sword. Al catches the sword with his palms and throws him toward the side of the hill. This angers Romeo, and he realizes that it was Al who destroyed his plans. He starts transforming into his true form and takes out some monsters as he does so. His new form shows a level of 78, which the princess sees. She warns Al and tells him to run away. Romeo attacks with all his strength. Al knocks him out with one uppercut to his chin. The other monsters see this and realize how he stopped Romeo with one punch. They all scatter in fear. The next day, the king and princess are thanking Al for saving them. They are all back in the castle and Al is explaining to them that he didn't want to lose the only place he sells his crops. He tries to go to tend to his crops, but the king stops him. He wants him to also work for the palace, and having him is like having 100 men. He offers Al anything he likes, but the princess tells him that Al is not interested in anything else but farming. She rewards Al with 3,300 square meters of fields with the condition he registers to a guild. She explains that the capital and its neighboring territories are still under threat of monster attacks, and she hopes he can help them from time to time. Al agrees to this but would soon see that it was a wasteland. The next day, MC walks with the princess, admiring all the farm produce they could see. She asks him if he only thinks about food. Al replies that it is because he is a farmer. The princess notes that he always keeps emphasizing he is a farmer. Al cuts her off, which startled her. It turns out that he was just buying 2 skewers of green peppers and meat, with pipers being a vegetable in their world similar to green peppers. They eat the skewers while walking, and Al asks the princess if it is okay for her to be hanging out in the streets with him. The princess explains that her maid Irby is doubling for her in the palace so no one would notice. She continues that it is her duty to know more about the common people's life. Al notes that it seemed that she is just hanging out, to which she responds that she also needs to know about the food common folk eat and points to Al another dish she would like to try. They reach the Adventurers Guild. Before they enter, Al makes it clear that he doesn't want to be an adventurer, but since the princess gave him the land, he has to return the favor. She reminds her to keep her identity a secret and that he must call her Philia from then on. Al feels that she will easily get discovered, but she tells him that her hair clip has deception magic that helps cover her up. Al doubts this but proceeds to enter the guild. Inside, Al is greeted by the guild master. He escorts Al to the reception and introduces him to Helen, but before MC could register, his stomach started grumbling, so Helen led him to a room. She gave him a delicious l'orange pie. It's an orange pie. Al takes note of this and plans to grow the fruit on his farm. Helen starts asking Al why he wanted to be an adventurer when it was noted in the form that his job was a farmer. Al explains that someone had given him land on the condition that he had to help kill monsters. He still intends to be a farmer, but adventures as a side job. Helen remarks that he must be good, which Al, smiling, says he is not. Their conversation is interrupted, and both turn to see the 3 adventurers who fought with the forest dragon. They identify Al as the one who defeated the S-rank forest dragon. This turns everyone's head in the room, and they all started murmuring and trying to get a look at Al. He quickly dispels the attention by saying he is just a farmer and he just threw a carrot at the dragon. Helen says Al should turn to these 3 adventurers for help. Al introduces himself to Jake, Lamia, and Luke. Luke admires Al and wants to be like him, while Lamia encourages Al to slay monsters with them for their country. Al declines as he wants to be a farmer for the rest of his life. Lamia ignores this and wishes him well and hopes to fight monsters with him. Jake invites Luke and Lamia to drink till morning, and Al starts imagining the group dragging him away from his beloved farm. After the adventurers leave, Al asks Helen for a quest. Helen tells him that since he is still G-ranked, he can't take on difficult quests. She explains that adventurers are ranked from G to SS, with the SS ranked exclusively given to heroes. Once he levels up to C or B, he can take quests alone, but being talented as he is, he will most probably be promoted to S rank soon. In his mind, All doesn't want to be S rank as it will attract too much attention. Helen gives him a quest to collect 10 milks from the Grim Forest. She explains how milks are used for healing potions that are essentially used by adventurers. She also gives him a paper with a picture of milk, the type of monsters in the forest, and how to avoid them. Helen notices that Al has no gear to protect him. She gifts him with a cloak imbued with magic that would increase his defense. At first, Al refuses the cloak, but Helen successfully puts it on him. Once Al puts on the cloak, Helen becomes dumbstruck. Al claps his hands to awaken her. She apologizes for zoning out and tells him that he reminds her of someone. As Helen encourages Al on his quest, Al realizes he is being dragged away from his farm life. Al and the princess leave the guild. Al compliments how her clit really prevented her from being recognized as the prince, but tells her she cannot accompany him to the Grim Forest. She waves him goodbye but reminds him that she will see him again the following day. This annoys him very much. After gathering 9 milks, Al finds a strange black scale. He reads through the paper and finds no mention of monsters with scales. He notices something written in red and reads it. It turns out to be a warning that orcs breed quickly and attack their own species and other human-formed species. Al thought that it was safe as he was male, but the warning also expounds that there are male and female orcs, so males must also be careful. As Al was reading this, a female orc snuck up behind him and starts to make advances toward him. He panics and gets overwhelmed by the stench of the orc. Fortunately, Jake was nearby and slashed through the orc. Al thanks Jake as Lamia and Luke join them. Al shows them the mysterious black scale he picked up. Jake says this is a scale of a mysterious monster that has recently been roaming the Grim Forest. Some say it was a black dragon scale, but Jake reasons that they only dwell at the rivers in the highlands. People have been finding the scale but have never seen the dragon itself. Lamia observes that the scale was of good quality and Al could sell it for a good price. Jake invites everyone to head back as it was getting dark. Suddenly, the whole area gets filled with dark energy and a huge black dragon appears. With its red glowing eyes and streaks of red lines slithering through its scales, the dragon walks past them. They are all paralyzed with fear and are unable to move. Al glances at the dragon to check its status and is shocked by the high level of its stats. Meanwhile, Helen is having a nightmare of running through the forest with something chasing her. She wakes up when the scene turns into blood spluttering everywhere. Back in the guild, Helen's disheveled look is noticed by her adoptive mother. Helen shares that she has suffered memory loss again and couldn't recall anything after she got home. Her mother advises her to seek a doctor and rest. She feels Helen is overworked, and this may have caused her memory loss. Al walks through the doors and informs her of their discovery of the black dragon in the forest. Helen calls the guild master and they all have a meeting. Jake informs them that Al had seen the status of the dragon with an attack power of 230,000. With this power, it could easily destroy their whole country. Luke says that the dragon may be Ouroboros, the evil dragon, and asks the guild master about it. The guild master says that its appearance is impossible. The name, however, strikes a chord with Helen, and she suddenly collapses on the table. The guild master requests her to take a rest, but she insists on learning more about the dragon. Luke continues that the dragon disappeared after passing them. Lamia recalls almost fainting just by being near it and suggests that heroes should take care of it. Jake also says that the Grim Forest must be cordoned off for everyone's safety. Al takes out the dragon scale and shows it to them. Upon seeing the scale, memories come flooding back to Helen. She remembers her brother, Lei, running in front of her and how the black dragon killed him in front of her. This causes her to faint on the floor. Al talks to Helen's foster mother, Wang Lin. He is informed that Helen is okay. Wang recognizes the robe Al is wearing and inquires where he got it. When Al tells her that Helen gave it to him as a gift, Wang tells him about how she came to adopt her. She had no recollection of her childhood and all she had was her name and the robe Al was wearing. She and her husband found her by the Snus River 15 years ago. Since it seemed she had no family, they decided to adopt her. Helen still can remember her past, but Wong surmises that it may have something to do with the dragon. Al pledges to help Helen. Wong reminds him that he should not do anything foolish and leave the dragon to the S-rank adventurers. Al assures her that he will just go to the library and inquire about what happened 15 years ago. Wong is pleased by this and gives him bottles of healing potions. She asks to be kept informed and tells Al she will reward him for any information. As Al leaves the guild, a postman gives him a letter from his mother. Al is shocked as he never told his mother about his move to the capital. He starts wondering how she found out, but the postman takes his leave. He runs fast, leaving a trail of dust behind, but returns to Al to introduce himself as Rix, the postman. He then takes his leave again, leaving Al to wonder how Rix knew where he was. Al's research in the library has shown no results despite going through several books. He starts to get desperate as he feels that the dragon can destroy the entire city in a blink of an eye. Then he remembers that Wong found Helen 15 years ago. He decides to check the damage report from that year. Unfortunately, the librarian refuses to let him access the restricted section as it is only available for certain ranks. He tries pleading with the librarian but is threatened with a lawsuit. The princess stepped in and talked to the librarian to give Al access. The librarian was taken aback that she knocked over some books. It turns out that she tried looking for Al in the guild and was told he went to the library. The librarian agrees to let them both in the restricted section. Al informs Thal Yis about his search for the damage report along Snus River. The princess recalls a place called Hanaru Village along the river and finds the records for it. She asks Al if he is determined to be an adventurer as he is reading through the records. Al responds that he is just helping someone in trouble. The records show that 15 years ago, Hanaru Village was destroyed. A merchant going to the village found it in ruins. When he investigated, he found black scales around the village. He concluded that the scale belonged to Ouroboros, the evil dragon who was supposed to have been dead. The princess explains that Ouroboros feeds on destruction and despair, and it was immortal. However, according to Naturalis Historia, its body perished in a battle against its mortal enemy Mirage, the holy dragon. The princess wonders if the dragon is dead. How did Al find its scale? She is worried that if the dragon comes back to life, the whole world will be destroyed. Al decides to go to the ruins of the village the following day. The princess decides to tag along, which alarms Al again. The next day, they arrive at the ruins. Al hears a voice of a child calling out. He follows the voice to a tombstone. There a boy appears wearing the same cape he has on. The boy is glad that Al can hear him. The boy turns out to be the ghost of Lei, and he has been waiting for someone to hear him. Back in the guild, Helen gazes out the window. With this, we end our video. Stay tuned for the next part and watch our other quality contents.